Hello, welcome to the Physique Mastery Podcast. This is Scott Tuzana along with Brian Cron. Today we are talking about how to build some bigger legs. We're going to be sharing our techniques that we've used on ourselves as well as clients, and hopefully provide you guys with some helpful tips and give you some ideas to kind of incorporate into your own training, because there is no best method out there for building legs. We can just offer some different suggestions for you to try yourself and see what works best for you. And of course, the beauty of this sport is that there are so many different ways that we can go about training our physiques, making our training a hell of a lot more fun and providing different stimulus for our muscles there. So, Brian, what are some of the techniques that you've found for yourself on what has worked for you over the years for building your gigantic muscular legs? What are they, the biggest legs north of the Yukon? Or
I think I walked away from that tagline. That's my one non-weak point. I don't call it a strong point. It's my non-weak point. For me, like, that's the thing. Everybody's built differently, obviously, and you know, if you have good levers for, say, squatting, you just naturally, kind of shorter legs and you have the right kind of frame for squatting, then squats are going to be your best exercise for legs. And like for me, that's, I responded really quickly when I was young to squatting and, built big legs relatively, not easily, but just without having to try very hard. I didn't have to get creative. Mm-hmm. And then later on, I would split my quads and my hams into 2 different days. I did that when I was like 25 till I was 30. And that was huge for me, like squatting one day, deadlifting the next day. Just the only problem is I used, in hindsight, my reps were too low. So I think I kind of lost a lot of progress that I could have had I taken more of a bodybuilding approach as opposed to a hardcore strength training approach. Like I got reasonably strong, but I just didn't get the kind of size that a higher volume would have afforded.
Right.
So that's a mistake. But that's probably the first thing I would do if someone said I need to build my legs up quickly. I would say training twice a week, a quad emphasis day, and a hamstring emphasis day, but obviously bring the reps quite a bit higher.
Right. Yeah, it's been fun. There's so many different ways to approach the leg training. We've experimented with that approach as well, splitting up the quads. There are days where I do quads and triceps, and then days where we do hamstrings and biceps. And that was always fun. It's a completely different experience overall. And definitely enjoyed it. It's a different feeling walking out of the gym when your quads are crazy pumped and your hamstrings, I mean, they get a little bit of the engagement activation from squats and all that stuff, but swollen quad, you almost feel very Bambi-ish. It's just a different kind of feel walking out there as opposed to like when you do a full out leg workout. So.
Yeah, definitely. Like now I'm, at the age I'm at now, my goals are a little bit different. So now I prefer kind of like we're doing in this month's programming, a really heavy leg day and then like a single leg day. Yeah. Or just varying things that way. So that also certainly can work.
I'd say that's probably been one of the biggest. Yeah. When I started experiencing the best growth in my legs, which wasn't until my mid-30s, when I really, really grasped what was most effective for building my legs. It was having a heavy focused, strength focused leg day, and then a pump day where we just hammered them, high rep stuff, isolation stuff, and I found my legs responded exceptionally well to that kind of training.
Oh, absolutely.
It could have been just because it was a drastic change from what I've been doing too. Change is a big driving force there.
Well, and it's also, if you're not exceptionally gifted for building muscle in the legs, I think you really have to get into that mindset of, at the risk of sounding contrived, getting into the pain zone. Like you really have to push, into well beyond what you think your failure is. Not so much with squatting and deadlifting because you'll wind up in a wheelchair, but it's definitely the leg press.
100%. Yeah, that's probably my favorite exercise to really, really give it.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's but it's a lot of people just don't have that switch, or else they're on the internet too much and they think they don't have to work at that level of intensity. But when you kind of can get there with a leg press, especially, or a hack squat, that produces a lot of growth. Like getting those extra 2, 3, 4, sometimes 10 reps when you're just well past what you think your failure is.
Yeah, 100%. It's, I find like with the leg extension, there's that little bit, like people will sell themselves short, but they feel the burn, and they stop. Or you can keep going with that, but still you reach that point where you're just done. Like a leg curl, I find it's just flat out fatigue. Like you just can't do it anymore. Whereas like leg press, there's something about it that, it burns, it sucks. And I find depending on the load, if I'm going for like 15 to 20 reps, there's times where I can almost do 10 reps more than what I thought I could do. And throw just keep going. You just keep going. And there's one time we had in one of the Physique Mastery programs the 3-minute leg press, where it was nice and lightweight. I almost forgot about that. It just clicked in. And as soon as I start thinking of pain and working through that burn, like the first minute and a half, you're like, I can do this. And it's the second minute and a half where we could have stopped. Like at a minute and a half, done. But you kept going for another minute and a half. And you're like, this sucks. Oh my God. And it's non-stop, continuous freaking 3-minute. Like that was the most disgusting thing I think I've ever done. It's just nasty. But you had to get your head in the game there.
Well, and like everything, it's context is everything. And I'm just the king of high intensity training, like Dorian Yates. Like people will watch his leg pressing, and it's ridiculous, like how hard he goes. And people will say, well, that's not necessary. Like he's going way, he's way beyond stimulating his muscles. That's not necessary. But again, it's context. Like this is a guy who's pushed his body way, like probably past any potential. Like he's still trying to get more, and that's what you have to do. So when you're at that level, watering it down a bit for someone like us, or you still have to get beyond that comfort zone. And it's that comfort zone, I don't know, man. It seems every year it gets lowered. It seems like I don't know. In my personal opinion, like there's a time and a place for just like keeping a rep in the hole and all that jazz. But on a leg press, especially if you are actively trying to improve your physique, like aggressively going for something, you have to push into that pain zone. Yeah.
No doubt about it. Adam chimed in. He's in our Physique Mastery Movement group as well. He went through the 3-minute workout. He said, those were sucky awesome. They sucked so bad, but they worked so good. I think we brought up genetics a few times too. It definitely plays a big role. Definitely the structure. Like some people are built for strength, your structure for depth and everything. But I do find it interesting. Like you look at, like, think, I want to build my legs. I've got to follow Tom Platt's workout program. He's got to know the secrets to having the big legs. Now, he's one of those guys that probably practice your principles of if you've got a part that grows really well, responds well to training, just make it freakishly bigger. But I don't know. Like, I kind of prefer to look at people who like have really struggled to build their legs. What have they done to grow their legs, rather than someone who just naturally pretty gifted at it as well. And there's a reason they genetically have a better body, stronger looking body part, and a lot of it has to do with their structure, their natural mechanics. Like they might perform an extra movement just in the ideal way where they're feeling just the right amount of tension in their muscles, and we struggle to get there.
Yeah, like if you don't have that perfect structure, or if you don't have that, just the wiring to really feel an exercise. And we all have exercises that everyone says are the king of this or the king of that, and you do them, and you just don't feel it where you're supposed to for whatever reason. Even like you just can't figure it out. Then you just gotta learn to experiment and try different things. And like with a leg press, it could be something as like changing the type of leg press. Like some people do better on the old school vertical leg press as opposed to the 45 degree. It can be obviously foot placement. It can be, maintaining a constant tension or pushing through the toes versus the heels. Like these are all little things that you can change up. And of course, rep range. Like if it's a legitimately like a weak point that you just can't get going, you have to experiment and you have to try new things.
Yeah, I think oftentimes we both said that if you have a weak point, like before you start changing programming and everything, like what is it about your technique that you can improve? And I think the biggest breakthrough for me wasn't only just mixing up my training, my style of training, but it was the focus on the mind-muscle connection. I really had to reduced the weight on some of the movements. I wasn't feeling it where I was supposed to be feeling the movement. And like for me, some of the things that have really worked, especially on the leg press, the hack squat, stuff like that, is that I unwrap the weight and I kind of just hold it there with my knees slightly bent, and I feel the tension in my thighs right away. Like where I want to feel it, I can feel the load on those muscles. Whereas before I'd unrack, boom, drop. And I found that it really, the weight, the tension kind of distributed more in the hips and the lower back, and there's other muscles that were taking the load, and it took me multiple reps to really realize that, fuck, I should be working my thighs more than I am these other muscles in my trunk.
Yeah, exactly. And when you get too obsessed with poundages, especially with legs, especially with squatting, if you get too obsessed with, getting, a new PR and all that, your form will suffer. And, obviously you're going to start transferring the load onto supporting muscles. I mean, and now you're getting into powerlifting, and it's all, maximizing leverage. Mm-hmm. But that's not bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is feeling the target muscles working, and you don't get that, especially with lower body work. You don't get that with the heaviest weights you can do. Like you get that with like focus and getting into higher rep ranges.
Absolutely. Yeah. How about in programming, splitting up between quads and hamstrings? Do you find you have to give? I guess it would depend on the individual. Some are a little bit weaker in the hamstring area, some quads. But in general, programming, if someone's fairly balanced, you tend to balance quads and hamstrings in the programs. It's tougher to say because squats, leg press, a lot of those movements, they're pretty quad dominant for the most part, but you're still going to get some hamstring engagement there. And deadlifts, hamstring dominant. You're still going to get some quad activation there too.
Well, again, you start getting into dogma again. Like when I was coming up, we were taught like anything with like knee flexion, like leg curls. Do that with lower reps because of the muscle fiber type, and then hip extension, deadlifts, RDLs. Good mornings. Do that with higher reps but again, like then you start playing with higher reps on leg curls, and all of a sudden you start getting growth. So I mean, there's a time and a place for rules, but that all it is, there's different things you can play with.
Yeah.
So I do like having like on different types of hamstring focused days, like one day being knee flexion, the other day being more hip extension, and then always like adjusting the rep ranges. Like maybe for one block doing those higher reps, and the other, doing the lower reps, and then switching it around. Mm-hmm. Like one awesome thing I stole from John Meadows was doing leg curls before squatting.
Yep.
It's not great for your squat poundages, but it certainly does seem to, if you have trouble activating, your quads and your hamstrings during a squat, it can help you just kind of sink a little bit more into the hole.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Yeah, doing a nice like pre-exhaust drop set or something like that on the leg curl before heading over to the squat. Yeah, the squat just feels better, smoother, and definitely a little bit more mind-muscle connection there. Yeah, little tricks, so many different variations to work with. Now, I know not that long ago you were working with Chase, and you had him doing some crazy stuff. So program design, there's so many different like frequencies and stuff like that. We can't be talking about legs. His legs. Now he was in contest prep, and his legs appeared to have put on some slack. I can only imagine if he was in maintenance mode or muscle building mode, how much his legs would have grown. But what are some of the crazy extreme kind of stuff that you had him set up to do?
Well, as I recall, like we did a lot of twice a day, twice a week. So we had a block for his pecs. We trained his chest twice a day, twice a week. So like on a Monday and a Thursday. In the morning you do lower reps, and at night you do higher reps. And as I recall, we did that for his legs. We definitely split it into a quad-based day and a hamstring-based day. And I did progress it to training a boatlet, again, twice a day, twice a week. But again, as we started getting into as his show approached, we had to kind of back off on that a little bit, but because his calories were getting pretty low.
Yeah.
But man, I threw some disgusting things at him just for that reason, because he's a conditioned very good, good athlete who had a weak point. So if I give him just garden variety shit, it's not going to do anything.
Right.
Because I already know he's working hard, and I already know that, he's doing the exercises well, and he's consistent, like all the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So, all that was left is now I got to create it with the programming.
Yeah. And the lifestyle to suit it as well. Not everyone can do twice a day type training.
Yeah.
You've had success in that in the past. I don't know if it was a year ago or so, or you were doing the same thing for a short block or twice a day workout. To get in and out, if you're going to do twice a day, you've got to do that strength focus in the morning, and then you got to pump stuff later on in the day.
Yeah. Like if I won the lottery tomorrow, or even just had a nice inheritance for something tomorrow, I would have a little gym in my house that would afford me to do that. That afford me to like have 2 workouts a day for like 30 to 40 minutes. Lower reps in the morning, higher reps at night. I just think there's nothing that I've experimented with clients or even with myself that works better. But the trick is knowing when to not do it, because you can do it for a couple of weeks and all of a sudden you can dig a really deep hole.
Right.
Yeah. But
how about in general, overall, do you find a frequency of twice a week hitting your legs seems to be decent, or again just mixing it up?
It's funny. There's all this talk about different frequencies working, and I agree. Like some muscle groups, like 4 or 5 times a week works great for until you adapt to it. But I think legs is a little bit more. I think twice a week is really the sweet spot in my humble opinion. Certainly, can you throw stuff in on other days, like maybe like one set to failure or something? Yeah, probably wouldn't hurt. I'd probably spend that time doing something like calves. Like I'd do calves every damn day, if that was a weak point.
Right.
Because it'll respond to that. But I think definitely I got to agree with what everyone else is saying, that twice a week for legs is probably going to work the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, for most people. And again, it's going to be individual and see. Yeah. Some people can only handle it once every 5 days or something like that. It's no hard set rule, but especially if and again, it's going to come to strategically separating those workouts. I do love. Yeah. I find I can handle twice a week really well. Yeah. When I have a strength focused day and a pump focused day. If I had 2 killer leg workouts, I think it'd be.
But context is everything, though. Like I got a client, his upper body's messed. Like he blew out his elbow. He can't do anything. So we're training the shit out of his legs like 3-4 times a week. It just it's more. Some days are more core work than anything.
Yes.
But again, the context is I'm trying to keep him in the game.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If I tell him just go sit on the couch, that's just not going to work for him. So we're just trying to keep him engaged and coax some gains out of him.
Yeah. Well, I did a plan a few years ago where it was 5 days a week for 1 month, but you really have to play around with volume. You have your heavy, crazy day. But again, you're only like 1 or 2 exercises at the most there. And then it's a nice light day where it's easy. Yeah. The nice stuff that you can handle really well, the isolation stuff. And, you got to manage the volume that you're doing each workout and the type of exercises that are in your selection. So many different methods to use there. But I'd say the 2 biggest takeaways would probably be, you got to dig deep, man. You got to give it everything that you got with this, especially with exercises like the leg press, and just find a way to get that mental switch flipped and just crush it.
Reps. Most people will have a really good idea of what their failure is in like a bicep curl or something. Legs, especially those bigger leg exercises, especially a leg press, which is pretty safe if you do it correctly. People have no idea. Like I wouldn't be surprised when someone stops at failure and it's like 12 or 13 reps. They probably have 30 reps in them. Yeah. It's bad. I see it all the time. Yeah.
So, I agree, dude. I agree 100% there for sure.
Yeah.
So give effort there. Mindless connection. Make sure technique is great when you need it. I mean, technique should always be good, but like heavy lifting days, deadlift and everything, still you give it. It's a different experience there. Try to hit those legs twice a week. Play around with quad days, hamstring days. Lots of different options they can do. It really is limitless. I think our main takeaway is is effort.
Yeah.
As always, man. Step up your game.
Yeah. Always.
Very cool. All right, man. I think that's a wrap. This is a fun topic. Maybe next week we'll talk about building some guns there. The best way to build these arms.
Absolutely, man.
That'll be one of our upcoming conversations. You guys have any ideas or suggestions for topics? Feel free to share them down below anytime. You can send them our way. I'm more than happy to discuss them. But that is a wrap for the Physique Mastery Podcast. Catch you next time.
See ya.